It's a story of a foreclosure, one of many on Hawaii Island, or it's a pivotal moment in the legal struggle of the occupied Hawaiian kingdom. In the least, it's a documentation of a Puna man's forced eviction from the place he's called home for more than a decade. At most, it's a glimpse of a hidden reality that clouds the title of every commercial and residential property in the state, and the linchpin to testing an international understanding of America's relationship to Hawaii.
Every state except Hawaii has a treaty.
It's a series in 5 parts by Big Island Video News entitled Defected, Testing Hawaiian Sovereignty. In August of 2013, time was running out for Kale Gumapak. Undeterred by accusations of war crimes, the state began enforcing the eviction of Gumapak from his Hawaiian Paradise Park home.
So I'm over here just to let you guys know, or let you know, that we're going to execute the order.
This video, shot by Nancy Munro, shows State Sheriff Patrick Kawai serving notice to Gumapak at his home, which is also the base of operations for Gumapak's Laulima Title Search and Claims LLC, a company that advises others who are facing foreclosure in Hawaii.
Weren't expecting them at all, and they just showed up, you know, when they came to serve me the writ of possession.
Well, regardless of my personal beliefs, we carry on a valid order from the courts. So that's why I don't want to get into this. This is wrong and all that stuff.
The order is illegal.
And
the order is illegal, and you know that.
And I
know that you know that.
While being served, Gumapak tried to warn Sheriff Kawai that because of his actions, he too would be guilty of war crimes.
You know, these guys think that this is not coming, or this is frivolous, or the things that we're saying is not true. Well, it's coming, and it's going to be coming very swiftly.
No, the court order is not valid.
And that's your position.
No.
I'm just letting you know.
The court order is not valid.
As we follow the unfolding story of Kale Gumapak and his argument that Hawaiian Kingdom law applies in his case and others,
And the Hawaiian Kingdom, sovereignty was never lost.
we ask, could the people of Hawaii accept the idea that the islands are occupied by the United States? The possibility seems unlikely at this moment in time, given the strong sense of American patriotism that many in Hawaii feel. But imagine if everyone could accept the idea. How would authorities and leaders handle the discrepancies between U.S. and Kingdom law? The quandary has already come up. Confusing events unfolded during the investigation into alleged war crimes in circuit court. This is what was said during a press conference in May, which was held to announce the filing of the complaints.
After filing of these war crime complaints with both the ICC and the protests and demands with the with the U.S. Pacific Command, my clients filed criminal complaint reports with the Hawaii County Police Department and with Officer Leland Pa.
The case of Hawaii County Police Officer Leland Pa would turn out to be one of the more mysterious aspects of this story.
Officer Pa, in fact, did receive these complaints, did assign all of these complaints criminal numbers, and did begin preliminary criminal investigation into these complaints.
From here, some of the facts are in dispute. In a press release sent out the same day as this press conference, Hawaii County Police refuted Dexter Kai'ama's claim and said, quote, "The police department is conducting no such investigation," end quote, into certain state judges and attorneys for alleged war crimes.
I've recently read the press release from the Hawaii County Police Department.
But Kai'ama refutes the police statement
That indicated that they were not conducting any investigation into the complaints. And in fact, what they've done is that they forwarded these complaints to the FBI. And if the FBI conducts its investigation, that's up to them. In my letter to Detective Morimoto, dated April 14, 2013, I provided the legal basis and the instructions to Morimoto that it should properly be rerouted once the initial investigation is completed to the U.S. Pacific Command. And the reason for that is simply this. The FBI is part of the Department of Justice, and the Department of Justice's jurisdiction is limited to its territorial borders, and that is the United States. Because Hawaii is not part of the United States, the FBI should not have jurisdiction over this investigation because we are currently occupied by the United States and the military is here. The proper authority to conduct and complete the investigation is the U.S. Pacific Command. And the proper authority to, in fact, not after completion of an investigation, but to prosecute the perpetrators would be also the U.S. Pacific Command's authority.
The involvement of the Pacific Command was specified in the executive agreement and is standard procedure, so to speak, in the time of an occupation.
In 1996, the United States Congress passed a law called the War Crimes Act. It says here, an act to carry out the international obligations of the United States under the Geneva Conventions to provide criminal penalties for certain war crimes. And what is identified as war crimes in the Geneva Convention? It's a felony. And it can exist. This felony is applicable not only within U.S. territory, but outside of U.S. territory, where the United States is an occupier. And it is the duty under the War Crimes Act that the U.S. military in occupied territories must enforce this law and prosecute and convict people that have committed a war crime. Now we're getting into some serious stuff here, yeah? Very serious.
And a written declaration of Officer Leland Pa, forwarded to us by Dexter Kayama, shows that Pa made a few phone calls about these allegations. Pa says he called the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Human Rights Council branch, and confirmed the war crime complaints were made. Pa swore that he then telephoned the headquarters of the U.S. Pacific Command and spoke with Principal Deputy Staff Judge Advocate Ronald Winfrey. According to Pa, Winfrey even admitted without hesitation that there is no treaty of annexation and that the executive agreements have never been ruled on in the U.S. Supreme Court, remaining unresolved. Apparently, Officer Pa's phone calls did not sit well with his superiors.
Shortly after his initial preliminary investigations, Officer Pa was placed on leave without pay. And we believe as a direct result of his taking and assigning the criminal complaint numbers to these complaints from my clients.
Kayama forwarded copies of numerous internal complaint reports alleging that Pa violated police standards of conduct and misused his position when he called State of Hawaii judges and attorneys while off duty, informing them that they are the subjects of war crime complaints and requested that they be interviewed as part of his investigation. The police department said in the internal complaint documents the calls constituted prohibited subversive acts according to its standards of conduct. The police department also found fault with the police reports generated by Pa in regards to the case. Police could not talk to us about the situation as it is considered an internal personnel matter. But Kayama has his own interpretation of the police department's misconduct complaints against Pa.
Actions were being taken that seems to indicate an effort to thwart the criminal investigations into these complaints. Also, by placing Officer Pa on leave without pay, administrative leave without pay, my clients also believe and felt that efforts were being made to send a clear message to any police officer who sought to take these complaints, which is their duty under law to do, but it was an effort to intimidate officers from also taking, receiving, and assigning criminal complaint numbers to these complaints. I'm happy to say that Officer Pa, of course, has gone through the administration process or is continuing his administration process, and I think he has the support of his union. I believe, and I just believe upon information and belief, I believe Officer Pa has been reinstated. Although his administrative situation has still not yet been resolved.
But of the most bizarre twist in the Leland Pa situation was when we uncovered, only recently, this description of the officers in the acting government of the Hawaiian Kingdom on its own website. Listed as the acting sheriff for the island of Hawaii, Leland Pa, patrolman with the Hawaii County Police Department. We are told that Pa continues to serve in that position. If authorities seem confused, it can be understood. Hawaii's sovereign status is still not commonly understood and is still hotly debated.
Now, what's interesting here, I just want to point you to this picture. When I talk about the Hawaiian kingdom, I'm not talking about ancient history. My great-grandparents, my grandmother's dad was born in 1880 in the kingdom. Okay? This is them. And when I see their faces, they look so much like my uncles today, you know? But why is it? I want to plant this in your mind now. Why is it that I didn't know anything about the Hawaiian kingdom when I grew up? Yet my great-grandparents are from the Hawaiian kingdom. That was their country. They weren't Americans. They were Hawaiian subjects. All they knew was Hawaii, the country. How come I didn't know that?
And the fact that that history has been hidden is also a symptom of war crimes, as Dr. Keanu Sai points out.
Now, we're talking early 1900s now. We're not talking today. We're all victims of circumstance. We're talking early 1900s. They're going to concentrate on the children. They can't change the minds of the adults, but they're going to concentrate on the children. And those children are going to be indoctrinated into believing something that's not true. Okay? And then it will continue to their children. And then it hits my level. Board of Public Instruction here in Hawaii came out with this pamphlet, Program for Patriotic Exercises in the Public Schools. The theme of the program was to indoctrinate the children of the Hawaiian Islands to be American and to speak English. Now that's the plan. That's amazing because that's a plan right there. But what's more interesting is what I wanted to see was that plan carried out? I mean, I can tell it was because look. but I want to see, was it actually carried out and was there a witness to this? This is in 1907. These are children holding their hand up at the flag with their finger, index finger, pointing, saying, this is what they're saying. This is on the bottom. It says, we give our hearts and our heads to God and our country. One country, one language, one flag. The ones who are affected by the most here, Native Hawaiian families. And we hear stories from our grandparents that they were disciplined and hit for speaking Hawaiian. We heard that all the time. Now we see the reason. Now, I currently sit on 4 doctoral committees at the University of Hawaii. The research that is coming out is unbelievable. One of my students has brought out this information. This is heavy stuff. It's coming out. And this information is very, very overwhelming. But Hawaii's occupied. It's not a part of the United States. It's kidnapped. Okay? Well, you're going to start to get into criminal matters now. It's called war crimes. The population in 1890 was 89,990. By 1950, it exploded to 499,000. According to the Geneva Convention of 1949, Article 49 says the occupying power shall not transfer parts of its own civilian population into the territory it occupies. That's a war crime. My great-grandfather, Charles Armistead Reeves, is from Tennessee. I'm sure he didn't think he was committing a war crime coming to Hawaii. He was led to believe Hawaii is a part of the United States. He married my great-grandmother. That's where I came from. But doesn't this present it in a very different light? Get you to ask more questions? Like, wow. Well, usurpation of sovereignty is the unlawful use of sovereignty and denationalizing the inhabitants, which we just saw, is actually a war crime.
New evidence is always surfacing. Knowledge of critical events have been lost over the generations, only to recently be rediscovered, like the Kue petition, as Keanu Sai describes.
Now, no one knew that protest even existed until 1998. Professor Noinoi Silva, a political scientist at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, this was part of her doctoral research. She read in Hawaiian newspapers, they kept referring to a monster petition. Also another petition of 17,000 signatures, a total of 38,000 signatures. But she didn't know where it was. It kept pointing, though, to Washington. Well, she traveled to Washington, D.C., went to the National Archives, and there it was on display. What?
Today, the Kue petition is recognized by the descendants of the people who signed in defiance of annexation.
The National Archives made an agreement with Bishop Museum, and those petitions came to Hawaii and did a circuit around every island, and people started to see their grandfathers, great-grandfathers, and some even their parents signing. Some of them were even children, 9 years old, yeah? Elderly, 85 years old. And the people who also signed that petition were not only Hawaiian subjects. In the back, it has an identification of their nationalities. It included Americans. It included British. It included people living in Hawaii who said this is all illegal. That is important.
Oh, yeah. I got his picture. You know, he's in there. Come.
Here was the stop made in Waimea at about this time last year.
DK Kealoha Pau'ole. Fabulous, yeah? Yes. And that's him right there, his name, and his wife.
How many of you either found your kupuna's name out there or you know your kupuna is in that petition? How many of you is that? Now take a look around. Today, right after the play, if you stay a little while, you can actually put your kupuna's name on a sign that it then travel with the rest of them. So if you don't find your kupuna out there, they just haven't been put on a sign yet. But if you don't know yet, it was really written from the perspective of a reporter who was visiting here from San Francisco and who wrote an article in 1897 that inspired this play.
The events are faithfully reenacted, an entire story that only a short time ago had been lost to history.
She was Mrs. Kuai Heilani Campbell, the president of Hui Hawaii Aloha Aina o Nā Wahine.
An illustration of how emotions over Hawaiian sovereignty still run high. And that a passion to protest still festers in the sons and daughters of the kingdom's original activists. As for the protest of Kale Gumapak, his last stand came to an end just a few weeks ago.
Last Thursday, it was totally unexpected, and they showed up at 7:10 in the morning with 15 sheriffs, and they came with the fugitive task force from Honolulu. The most curious thing about this is that Patrick Kawai, who's a lieutenant here on Hawaii Island, he never informed those sheriffs from Honolulu as to the liability that they were going to be taking on with the war crimes that they were going to be charged with. And that was a big problem. Okay, well, the sheriffs came, are here, and serving in the order of eviction and are violating the law. And I've already put them on notice that they are in violation of Hawaiian Kingdom law and in violation of laws of occupation.
We got clarification on your weapons. We can give it back to you. So when you escort you off the property, my deputy will give it to you off of the property. Thanks for your cooperation. Appreciate it. And if that's it, then we want to escort you guys off the property.
Okay? This might be a political move on their part, you know, to take me out. But for me, I'm just here following the terms of my contract. They're doing this for political reasons. Because of the title issue and what's going to be taking place, you know, in my case, we're looking to move quickly with the German government to get the extradition and prosecution of Deutsche Bank and all of those involved in my case. Once we move on that, then people will know that we're for real. And we will send a message to the judges, the sheriffs, and everybody else involved in unlawful orders that they that all they have to do, the banks, is file a title insurance claim.
Yeah. Pair of socks, they're good to take with you. It's more comfortable inside though.
You don't pair of socks.
I can get one.
You can get one.
Yeah.
You want to kind
And one last surprise for the authorities.
What was unexpected by the sheriffs was that I had a house guest staying with me.
A face that is becoming well known internationally and on the home front.
Patrick Hawaii's face, it was a look of shock that Dr. Sai was walking out of my house because he knows what's coming down the pike.
Representing the next chapter in the story of Hawaiian sovereignty.